дуже дякую за запрошення на цей онлайн-форум з важливого питання, цікавого. І я думаю, що про цю тему можна багато говорити. І, напевно, спікери будуть багато про це говорити, там кожен з своєї точки зору. Я, з вашого дозволу, виділю декілька питань, які, на мій погляд, є важливі для розвитку агропереробки в Україні і ті процеси, до яких міністерство буде більш чи менш залучено. Перший, очевидно, важливий процес, про який ми всі знаємо і про який багато говориться, це те, що в Україні достатньо сировини, і вона буде ще збільшуватись, я думаю, особливо після завершення війни, яка потребуватиме і буде мати ринковий зміст її переробляти в інші продукти. Тут, скажімо, є багато хорошого, що вселяє оптимізм, тому що в середовище в нас висококонкурентне і практично на кожній ділянці цього бізнесу, від земельних відносин, закінчуючи торгівлі зерновими, постачанням різних матеріалів, є висока конкуренція, а це основний рушій розвитку. І я практично впевнений, що в цій частині буде все добре, і українські аграрії, це вже сформовані люди, вони краще там за мене і за багатьох з нас знають, що далі робити. Що точно важливе і до чого країна має прикластися і державні органи, це відкриття нових ринків. Це, очевидно, одне з найважливіших завдань, яке точно простимулює переробку. Прикладом зрозумілим, і який ми всі можемо, скажімо так, відчути в плані тих процесів, які відбуваються найближчі останні місяці, останній рік, це відкриття ринків європейських. Це те, що відбулося минулого червня, і ці рішення, які прийняті Євросоюзом, органами Євросоюзу протягом останнього місяця про продовження зони торгівлі з Європейським Союзом, які передбачає відсутність квот і мит. І українські аграрії зреагували швидко, переробка в тому числі. Ми почали досить активно продавати свою продукцію в Європейський Союз, і кожен з нас, напевно, або більшість з нас, не дивлячись на війну, хто займається цією справою, вже думав, що якщо збережеться такі можливості, то можна далі розвивати переробку. Тому в цій частині проводиться велика робота, вона зараз складна і буде непростою, але Міністерство ПК, Міністерство економіки, керівництво країни, президент, прем'єр це добре розуміє, і мені здається, що значна частина вас, яка там слідкує за нашою роботою, яка бере участь в спілкуванні з нами чи з іншими міністерствами, це бачить. Свідченням того, наскільки ми конкурентні, очевидно, є там події останнього місяця-два, це ці дискусії з європейськими країнами щодо експорту в Європу нашої продукції. Але мені здається, що Європейський Союз прийняв внутрішньо для себе рішення, що ми будемо разом, і очевидно, що ринки мають бути відкритими. Тому найближчий рік-два буде предметна дискусія по деталях цієї взаємодії, до якої будуть задіяні, я думаю, більшість з вас. Тому це величезний стимул для агропереробки, тому що відкривається і вже відкритий ринок сусідній, надзвичайно платоспроможний, в яких там живуть сотні мільйонів людей, з хорошими технологіями, з правильними правилами. І це буде дуже сильно, на мою думку, стимулювати агропереробку, не дивлячись на різні проблеми, які можуть супроводжувати там аграрії в Україні, якими вони все рівно успішно справляться. Також я впевнений впевнений, що будуть результати роботи по відкриття інших ринків, в першу чергу азійських, які ми, можливо, навіть результати цього року побачимо. Очевидно, що є базові речі, до яких прикладемося ми і прикладеться уряд, пов'язані з тим, щоб спростити певні додаткові, скажімо так, речі зробити для тих, хто прийняв рішення робити агропереробку. Ми цього року, надіюсь, проведемо ще один раунд лібералізації такого суттєвого законодавства земельного. Протягом останніх 2-3 років було найбільше спрощень, найбільше прийнято норм, пов'язані з ринком землі, пов'язані з спрощенням зміни цільового призначення і так далі, і так далі. Але, на мою думку, цього недостатньо. І ми будемо цього року цю роботу продовжувати. Надіюсь, ми це закінчимо до осені одним або 2 великими законопроектами. Тому що, щоб, скажімо так, вирізнятись навіть на фоні інших країн, які вважаються прогресивними з точки зору ведення бізнесу в частині, як мінімум, земельних відносин. Тому, скажімо, є, звичайно, поточні питання, які всі нас хвилюють, логістичні, інші і так далі. І всі ми про них знаємо, всі ми кожен день ними займаємося. І вони, ці задачі і проблеми кожен тиждень міняються і малюється щось нове. І тут, зрозуміло, прогнозувати щось важко, говорити детально щось також недоцільно, але якась постійна робота, вона велась і буде вестись, причому на всіх рівнях, щоб це все їхало, за це все отримувалось гроші і затрати по логістиці зменшились. Тому бажаю вам успішно попрацювати, поспілкуватись. Дякую.
Many thanks. Many thanks. Mykola has raised a number of issues which are indeed actually very burning and very actual for many companies. At European Business Association and Global Business for Ukraine, we definitely share that opportunities are enormous in agriculture and food processing industry. And also can only confirm that questions from abroad arise on land and land ownership and land property, how everything has been functioning in this area. Plus, in addition to that, current big issue is logistics, how to cross the border in the shortest period of time, because now the duration of days to cross the border, it can be starting from 6 and lasting till 10 days in order to cross the border. I think that all these issues we will be able to discuss with Taras Vysotsky, the first Deputy Minister of Agrarian Policy and Food of Ukraine, but we will discuss with him all those issues and also the rest of things which appeared during the forum. But after the panel discussions, after our panelists will be able to present their point of views. Sergey, I invite you to the discussion, and again, thank you for all your analytical support and actions which you do in order to help investors to understand where the opportunities are in terms of investing into Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you to Minister for the opening. I am going to load up presentation. And today, it's already kind of a small tradition. Ukrainian Invest will share some analytical data with potential investors, with companies from Ukraine, from throughout the world, in order for us to understand where do we stand now, what kind of perspectives there are for business and for financial investors. Ukraine is a well-known breadbasket of the Europe, of the world, but agri-processing, it's still the sector that remains unlocked in Ukraine. So huge potential, and we will be looking at some figures today. And by the way, yes, happy Wyszywanka Day, and I wish everyone a safe and a peaceful day today so we can think about economy and investing in Ukraine. So what happened during the full-scale military invasion of Ukraine? The direct damage to Ukraine's agricultural sector and land resources amounted to almost $8.7 billion. Mainly, agricultural machinery suffered $4.7 billion and grain storage facilities, almost $2 billion. There was a 9% decrease in the size of grain and oil crops cultivated area compared with 2021. 93% of agricultural enterprises reported increase in production costs. 90% of agricultural enterprises involved in crop production reported decrease in revenues. 40% of enterprises reported to have changed their farm operational decisions due to the war. 50% of enterprises involved in livestock production reported to have experienced difficulties related to production and commercialization. 9% reported disruptions of agri-food value chain. And the overall value of the damages and losses for the crop sector account for $2.7 billion, while the livestock sector account to approximately $1.1 billion. So we can see that the damage is significant, and Ukraine as state reacts to that and trying to stabilize the market, but way more remains to be done in order to go back to previous figures and ensure economic growth specifically in this sector. How our exports has changed during this year. So we can see that EU exports from Ukraine to EU in 2021 were 27.7%. In 2022, 55%. So distribution of Ukrainian export products have changed significantly in 2022. More than half of the goods were purchased by the European countries. And agricultural exports in 2022 reached 53% of total exports of Ukraine and reached $23.4 billion compared to 40% or $27 billion in 2021. I will briefly remind you about Ukraine's role in world agriculture. So we are number one in terms of exports of sunflower. We are number one in terms of exports, global exports of sunflower meal. We are number two in terms of exports of sunflower oil, and number three in terms of exports of rapeseed globally. And the rest of the figures you can see, they are also very interesting to portray activities of the agricultural sector in Ukraine. We have decided to show you a comparison of Ukraine to two European countries, two countries that are members of European Union for quite some time. So these are France and Poland. France was a member of EU since its inception in 1993. Poland joined in 2004. The total area of square meters of land of Ukraine, Poland, and France, it's similar between Ukraine and France, but we are still the biggest ones in terms of territory. The arable land in Ukraine is more than 400,000 square kilometers. That is bigger than in France and Poland. Organic land, though, in Ukraine is only 462,000 hectares. And in France, due to more developed economy and agriculture, we have 2.5 million. And in Poland, 509,000 hectares. Percent of the agriculture in GDP in Ukraine is 7.3, in France 2.7, in Poland 4.2. At the same time, our population is 43 million people pre-war, in France 67, and in Poland 37. The GDP of our countries, though, are very different in 2022. Ukraine, $148 billion. France, $2.9 trillion. And Poland is growing significantly, $748 billion. And output of agriculture in Ukraine, $11 billion, in France, $78 billion, and in Poland, 32. So these figures will be useful for you when we will look at next slides. Export structure of Ukraine when compared to France and Poland. As you can see, 50% of our exports are cereals and 28% fats and oils. So almost 80% of Ukrainian exports are raw materials or just preliminary processed materials. At the same time, we can see that Poland and France, they have very diversified export structure. Why we are comparing that again? Because we are comparing that to the date of joining the EU. And Ukraine, as you know, has been granted the status of the candidate of EU member country in June 2022. So this indication could be an example where Ukraine is headed, and that shows investment potential. Because if Ukraine starts processing 50% of exported agricultural raw materials, primarily wheat and corn, and it will receive an additional $30 billion in export revenue every year. This number is very significant. France agri-processing sector at a glance. The value of agricultural production, as we already mentioned, $78 billion. The main subsectors with the highest production value are wine, 13%, milk, 13%, cereals, 15%, and cattle, almost 10%. France has 23% share of the bovine population and holds the position of the largest bovine producer in the EU. The second butter producer, 17% of the total EU production. The second fresh dairy products and cheese manufacturer, 14% and 18% of total EU production. Second fresh dairy products and cheese manufacturer, 14% and 17.9%. The largest utilized agricultural areas in the EU are in France, 27 million hectares, or 17% of the EU in total. Around 17% of the EU's total organic area is located in France, 2.5 million hectares. The largest cereal producer as well, 22.5% of the EU cereals production. And the third sunflower producer in the EU, almost 20% of the total EU production. Poland agro-processing sector. Value of the production is reaching up to $32 billion. Main sectors are dairy, cereals, pigs, poultry, and horticulture. Poland is the main producer of fruit, berries, and nuts in the EU, almost 20%. The largest apple producer, 34%. The third cacao milk producer, 9%. The largest poultry meal producer, 20% of EU in total. The third cereals producer, 13% of the EU cereals production. And the third sugar beet producer, 12% of the total EU production. At the same time, we understand, and we see this analytics on the screen now, that members of EU receive significant support from EU budget. In case of France, national funding that supports agricultural sector is $4 billion. However, from EU, France receives $48 billion of support to agricultural sector. National funding in Poland, $3 billion. And EU budget that supports Polish agricultural sector is $23 billion. The total allocation for the common agricultural policy in EU amounts to $418 billion. So you can see significant support that is being given by the EU to such agricultural developed countries as Poland and France. And Ukraine, provided that we will become members, we are also will be developing this sector very rapidly. But even now, without this support, we compete with players in the EU and throughout the world, and investments in Ukraine are very profitable, specifically in the processing sector. Opportunities for investors in Ukraine. You can see that our infrastructure in comparison with peer countries. We also have diversified imports in Ukraine as other countries. It's our exports that needs to be improved. However, these figures illustrate some investment potential for import substitution. For example, in 2022 alone, Ukraine imported fruits and nuts for $660 million, fish and other products for $627 million, vegetables for $352 million, milk or milk products for $248 million, preparations of grains, products from vegetables and from meat and fish also exported from countries to Ukraine. So why do we think, because it's a good idea, that investment in Ukraine is a profitable business? Because our cost of setting up business is more effective compared to some European countries and countries throughout the world. So you can see that electricity, gas prices, and labor costs, they are way lower than in neighboring countries. And Ukraine has very fertile lands. So about 33% of global black soil reserves are located in Ukraine. Also, logistic costs, they are more effective in Ukraine. An average $1 per kilometer. So I would really bring your attention to these areas, because production in Ukraine of these products will give you direct access to local markets. And this is something that has been already purchased by Ukrainians inside of the country. But in addition to that, any companies that will set up processing facilities in Ukraine will be exporting these products in addition to that. A couple of examples of opportunities for investors in Ukraine. Corn. Ukraine was a very strong producer of corn in 2021. We produced 42 million tons. In 2022, due to a full-scale military invasion of Ukraine, we produced only 23 million tons. So corn can be used to produce several products, food products like cereals, snacks, salad dressing, soft drinks, sweeteners, chewing gum, peanut butter, also animal feeds, industrial products like soaps, paints, corks, polish, adhesives, and rubber substitutes, as well as fermentation products and byproducts such as industrial alcohols, fuel ethanol, recyclable plastics, industrial enzymes, and other products that also produced in the sector of renewable energy like fuels. At the same time, at this very moment in Ukraine, we use our corn mainly for feed use. Food use is way lower, and we have other uses of corn in Ukraine. Organic production in Ukraine, very promising sector for investments. The total area of agricultural land, as we already discussed, is more than 460,000 hectares. It's 1% of the total area of agricultural land in Ukraine, and it's about 3% of the Europe's organic land. The main organic products that are consumed are milk, dairy products, vegetables, fruits, mushrooms, cereals, groats, flour, seeds, and other. According to the European Commission report, Ukraine has been ranked number 5 out of 126 countries by the volume of organic products imported to the EU. The main organic export products from Ukraine are cereals, oilseeds, and berries. Agtech is a very important sector in Ukraine. The global agri-tech market size was estimated at $17 billion in 2021, and it's projected to reach 41 billion by 2030. So just 7 years away, there will be almost double increase. Ukrainian enterprises already use such innovative solutions, and any investors that will come to Ukraine with agri-tech solutions, they will be able to return their profits at a very quick pace. So this could be electronic field maps, heading indicators, autopilots, GPS monitoring, drones, satellite maps, fuel control sensors, weather stations, and so on. In Ukraine, we already have 40 agri-tech product companies that operate effectively. And here I would like to remind you about state support for investment projects that also relate to agriculture and specifically to agri-processing sector. So if any investor will invest more than 20 million euros in the project, the investor will be able to claim up to 30% of state support of the CapEx investment. This would be given in a form of soft incentives such as 5-year corporate income tax exemption, value-added tax exemption for import of new equipment and components to it, exemption from import duty of new equipment and components as well, construction of related infrastructure, lease of state or communal land plots without auction, land exemption tax, and lower land tax rate. So we have several projects that are applying under this scheme now. This is very interesting proposal from State of Ukraine, because also investors will be able to sign a direct contract with the government of Ukraine, where all business conditions and business environment will be fixed, and also the State of Ukraine will commit to obligations for up to 15 years. Now, in Parliament of Ukraine, we have a draft law that even improves this legislative framework. So investors, after this draft law will be passed in second reading, they will be able to start investment project and then apply for state support, which gives more flexibility to investors. The threshold of investments will be decreased from 20 to 12 million euros. And there will be a reduced threshold of minimum required jobs from 80 to 50, or maybe even less, in order to enable more technical investments. Also, we have industrial park system, same incentives. You will be able to get up to 10 years corporate income tax relief, land tax exemptions, custom duty exemptions on equipment, and also non-refundable financing for arranging industrial park, full or partial compensation of interest rates on loans for arranging industrial park or carrying out economic activity. At the moment, we have 62 industrial parks registered, and it's a great opportunity for residents, because not many of these parks are operational, but they are ready to be launched. So I would pay significant attention to this scheme as well. Also, we have special support from the government, construction of grain storage and processing enterprises, livestock farm facilities. Up to 50% of the investments in construction of facilities can be reimbursed. Purchase of breeding animals, up to 80% of the value of breeding animals. Keeping and increasing farm animals, up to 30,000 hryvnias, which is approximately $700 per farm animal, and keeping increasing bee families, up to $1,700 per bee family owner. The total maximum amount of state support, 67 million hryvnias, which is approximately $1.5 million. So on this note, I would like to pass the floor back to Anna, to our esteemed moderator. But just a quick reminder about our next event within the Fit for Ukraine series. It will be held on the 15th of June, and it will focus on innovative investments for Ukraine, impact investment, blended finance, creation of private equity funds. So all you need to know about accessibility to finance and investments will be covered during this event. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Ukraine Invest is open to all businesses. Please do get in touch with us when you have any ideas about investments, or when you already do business in Ukraine. All services are complimentary from the government of Ukraine. Thank you very much. Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sergey. I think that you provided really very fair picture of what's going on in the agri-processing sector, and not only in Ukraine, but in France and in Poland. And frankly speaking, when I was listening to you regarding France and Poland, I was thinking that you will promote now those countries, but no. Thank you so much that you promote Ukraine. And I can only also confirm that, you know, number one request from the business community from Ukraine is to look for new markets, and look for new markets and opportunities actually to expand sales on the global arena. And at the same time, we also see from potential partners of global business for Ukraine and different businesses all around Europe, is that number one request to Ukraine is actually food processing products. So food and different things which arrive from agri sector. So that's why obviously opportunities lay on the surface. It's necessary to grasp them, to develop them, and to invest into Ukraine, into agricultural sector.
Just one comment from me, just 10 seconds. So the Poland and France was portrayed as our partners in European Union for investors to understand where Ukraine is headed. So the huge investment potential, and we will be improving economy in our country, and companies that want to jump on the train now and make biggest profits, so they get this opportunity, and we will be reaching the level of European countries in due course.
Absolutely. And here it's possible just to underline that in case French and Polish farmers get support from the state, enormous support, both from the state and from the EU, and that makes them successful. In our country, we don't get this European support and majority of state support. And our members, our businesses are resilient and successful on their own way. So this is really going like bravo to our business sector and business representatives. Let's proceed. And the next speaker is Olena Voloshina, head of the International Finance Corporation in Ukraine, and obviously Vice President of European Business Association. Olena.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for having me at today's event. And Sergey, thank you very much for an excellent analytical piece, as usual. Very, very good piece of work. If I could get a copy, I would really appreciate it. I'm not going to have a presentation. I just want to make a few comments on the potential, on the risks, on the opportunities, and where IFC sees potential for investments. I don't want to repeat the numbers that Sergey already mentioned about the impact that Ukrainian agribusiness sector had after the massive Russian invasion. But one of the impacts that we are seeing is Ukraine's ability to export less volume because of the logistical costs, because of the Green Deal, which is, vulnerable. It is extended every 3 months, and every time there's a question. Because of the problems at the border, because of the changing markets. So lots of things that are causing us to think strategically that we need to be exporting less volume for bigger value. And a very obvious idea then is, okay, we got to get into agro-processing. And that's a great thing to do, especially that Ukraine has already demonstrated many times in many subsectors its ability to be producing more value-added products. We are one of the best companies in terms of transferring plant protein into feed and then poultry. We have one of the most competitive poultry productions globally. We also demonstrated our ability, and I don't want to take away from Alexei, my client, we also demonstrated our ability to build from scratch when we can grow tomatoes and then we process tomatoes into tomato paste and tomato powder. And we are exporting to very sophisticated markets. I'm sure Alexei is going to be talking about it. We've been traditionally taking beetroot and producing sugar out of it. That's a traditional business for Ukraine. Sunflower to oil, this has been sort of done artificially in a way. And that is the example that is now being quoted very often. See, we introduced export duties on sunflower, and that caused the development of the sunflower processing industry. Yes and no. And that's actually sometimes not a very good example to follow. This was a very specific case, and the sunflower production, if you look at it, and I certainly don't pretend to be an agricultural person, but what I'm hearing from my colleagues and from other people in the industry, they're saying sunflower is very special because yes, you can efficiently do 2 products, which is oil and meal. And for these 2 products, you have different markets. So in a way, it is a peculiar case. And using that case, extrapolating it on all the other products is probably not the right thing to do. Because at some point, there were some scary discussions within Ukraine about restrictive measures, about imposing export duties on grain. And this is what caused a lot of concern with my colleagues with the World Bank and IFC. Because restrictive measures are bad, they go against the EU, but most importantly, they present a threat to the global security. So things like that need to be studied carefully rather than just simply saying, if we go from grain to flour, it's more value add, we're going to be happy. Because there must be reasons, and I certainly don't pretend to know them, but other people do. And I'm trying to explore, why hasn't Ukraine moved from grain exports to flour exports? And there are several reasons that have been identified, but I think the best explanation I received from a German farmer who told me, there is a reason why nature created grain in that form, because you basically export flour, which is protected by the shell. And if you try to export flour without the shell, then you get into all sorts of troubles. So, again, not pretending to be an expert, the message that I'm trying to deliver is that things need to be studied carefully in each particular case. And there are a couple of things to look at. There are things to look at what we can process for exports, especially exports to Europe. That's a new opportunity, and I completely agree with other speakers. There are things to look at for import substitution, because there is no reason why Ukraine should be importing honey. I'm sorry. Then there is also things to look at, cost efficiency of production. So all of these parameters need to be taken into account. And where we see opportunities is still in converting, and we are very much in agreement with other experts. There's a very good study by McKinsey that I'm going to quote, because where they see the opportunities is in meat production, basically converting, again, plant protein into meat protein, in amino acids, starch, and biofuels. We also see a lot of opportunities in similar spaces. Before the war, the massive phase of the war, we did a study on the dairy potential. Because if you look at Ukraine should be able to produce very efficient dairy products. The question is, which products, which markets? And this is precisely what we were trying to figure out, because traditionally we were producing cheese for the Russian market. That's been closed long ago. From milk, we can produce either cheese or butter or milk products, or maybe the way to go is to extract something more sophisticated. At some point, there was an idea by Campina, Friesland Campina, wanted to build a large facility to produce whey, because there was a lot of demand for whey, but somehow they couldn't. They couldn't organize the supply of whey from the smaller dairy producers. Things like that, whey or other very sophisticated products that could be extracted from milk. At that point, our consultants identified an opportunity for $150 to $200 million investment in the dairy sector, vertically integrated. It's difficult to imagine that someone is going to invest this kind of money now, because it's a long-term investment, especially if you build the farms around it. But that should not be excluded going forward. This is something where Ukraine has an opportunity. There is also an opportunity in consolidating the smaller family farms, which are sometimes more efficient. I know cooperatives has been tried, and the success has been mixed, but maybe this is where one should be looking at as well in the dairy space. The other area is horticulture. Sergey, you haven't mentioned that actually in the year 2014, each 12th bottle of apple juice in the US was made out of Ukrainian concentrate. Ukraine used to export between 90 and 100 million tons of apple concentrate. And there's no reason why we cannot do it again or expand it. There is also no reason why we cannot go into pectin production. And that's in fact what TBI Fruit was doing before the war. They were building a pectin production facility in Ukraine and also in Poland. There's a lot of growth of berries. And again, it's a funny thing that the frozen berries that we get in our supermarkets very often come from Poland or even from Finland. But sometimes these are actually Ukrainian berries. They were just transported in bulk to Poland, frozen in Poland, then transported to Finland, and then from Finland came to Ukraine. There are some good margins that could be made on berries growth, but there are even better margins that one can make in freezing those berries or making some processing of these berries. And there was also a case in Vinica where the Austrian company AGRI was doing precisely that. Again, a lot of opportunities in the horticulture space, leaving the tomatoes for Alexei. Yeah, that's also horticulture. New area of biofuel. There were several facilities in biogas. There's also the first facility for bioethanol that was announced recently. There was a lot of future there. One word of caution again, there were some attempts to go into what is called technical plants in order to produce biofuel. IFC is of the opinion that Ukrainian soil is so good and the Ukrainian climate is so good that we should be growing things to eat, and biofuels should be produced from waste. We also have a lot of waste. It's just a question of putting facilities, and I know there are a lot of thinking with the Ukrainian agricultural producers in terms of how to put together facilities for biofuel production. A lot of opportunities there as well. There are also small attempts to go into more sophisticated stuff like soy protein concentrate, soy protein isolate, lysine, gluten, starch from potatoes, starch from corn. Very, very small steps, very small facilities are being put together, mostly by smaller Ukrainian producers. But Ukraine has potential to go into these, and these products would be in demand globally. There are markets for these products. It's just a question of identifying these markets. The nutrition habits are changing, so there's going to be a lot more consumption of these products globally, and so that's a potential for Ukraine as well. Bottlenecks, we have a lot. I'm going to name some of them. There is an issue in European trust in Ukrainian products. But some companies dealt with it, and I hope Alexei will be telling you how his company has achieved it, that they have trust from European markets, from Japanese markets, and from other markets. There are issues with traceability. There are issues with following the Green Deal. There are issues with border crossing. And in fact, one of the things IFC is now trying to address is how to harmonize the documentation between Europe and Ukraine for exports of agricultural commodities, and hopefully to be able to digitalize it. That's where we're looking. For value-add processing, irrigation is key. And this is another area where Ukraine will need a lot of support from the donors, but also from the private sector. And again, one word of caution, before the war, there was an attempt to use irrigation for growing corn and wheat. We believe that if you're irrigating, then it's probably because of the costs of irrigation, it is probably makes a lot more sense to produce something more value add, like AGRI-Fusion is doing. And last but not least, investment.
Yeah.
That's what's needed.
Because I'm just looking at the timing, and that's why
yeah,
I just
I'm
see that
finished.
we are running
Last
out.
but not least, it's investment, and here we are. It's us. It's our colleagues from EBRD. We're all ready to help the sector go in and explore all these areas. We have approval from our board to go up to $2 billion of funding. So we're ready to start discussing these projects even now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olena, and really very nice, insightful things. Just to, as far as I understood, it's necessary to look for opportunities, but it's necessary to be cautious. This is the main message from you. And the question is, currently, does IFC support and finances the projects in Ukraine, or it just now considers to suspend?
No, IFC has been operational since 24th of February. We never stopped. We continued supporting our existing clients. We financed a large agricultural trader recently, and the most recent investment signed actually 2 weeks ago was our second investment in Horizon Fund. So we are open for business.
Great, thank you so much for your position, and let's proceed to EBRD Lesia Kuzmenko, Deputy Director, Ukraine, responsible for industry, commerce, and agribusiness. Lesia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. Thank you for opportunity to speak today. In my speech, I will concentrate on financial part because it's indeed very important to implement project when you have financing. Olena made very good summary about challenges and opportunities in this sector, so I would concentrate on financing. Let me share my presentation.
And just to remind that every speaker has up to 10 minutes max, so that's why somehow let's plan our time.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Great. So let me start from telling a few words about the EBRD for those who don't know us well. So we are largest institutional investor in Ukraine over the period since 1992. We financed over 530 projects for the total amount of 18.2 billion. Our current portfolio is 4.6 billion, spread between 3 large sectors. It's sustainable infrastructure, which takes biggest portion, industry, commerce, and agribusiness, which I am covering, and which represent main portion of our investment into private sector, and financial institutions. Before the war, we had very strong presence in the country with more than 100 people located in Ukraine. Now our office currently relocated to Poland, but we are eager to come back as soon as situation allows us to do so. Our business model envisages a combination of investments with policy engagement activities. So we support such topics as corporate governance improvements, green transition, digitalization, necessary reforms for development of conducting business environment, and others. We are very proud that our response to the war in Ukraine was very swift. Already in March last year, we approved the Resilience and Livelihood Program, and we were the first multilateral financial institution which took Ukrainian risks on its balance sheet, effectively leveraging donor support available. Overall, we committed to invest 3 billion euro over 2 years, 2022-2023, 2023, to help Ukrainian business functioning, actually. And already last year, we provided 1.7 billion euro. It includes some grants and turnover TFPs. And we've identified the following focus areas of our activities in Ukraine currently. It's support of trade and overall resilience of financial sector. As you can imagine, it's very essential. Energy security, vital infrastructure, food security, and overall resilience of private sector. Just few highlights of our activities in Ukraine last year. We provided emergency liquidity lines to Ukrzaliznytsia and Ukrenergo. We supported Naftogaz with quite substantial financial package to compensate for loss of natural gas production following Russian invasion. To support trade, we provided Ukraine with total trade finance turnover of 500 million during last year. To address food security issue, together with our partner banks, we provided over 280 million to the whole agribusiness value chain, including agro-processing. And we boosted resilience of other private sector companies, including SMEs, with 170 million. As you can see from numbers mentioned, despite some shift toward large projects in infrastructure sector caused by war, we continue providing support to agribusiness sector, including agro-processing. And this was always the focus of our activities in Ukraine. Overall, we financed more than 1.2 billion to date to support specifically agro-processing industry. So I excluded all primary agriculture activities, just agri-processing, value-added products. So here on this slide, you can see the main names which we supported during all these years of our activities in Ukraine. And this is the leading companies in various segments: it's sugar production, tomato paste and ketchup, soft drinks, sunflower oil production, dairy products, meat processing, food production, confectionery, ready-to-eat meals, and others. The companies such as AgriFusion and Astarta, which will participate today in our discussion, also our clients, long-term standing clients, and we are ready to support them going forward as well. Just a few words how we support our clients since the war started. So actually we identified 3 key instruments to outreach private sector in agribusiness value chain. First one is direct bilateral financing by BRD, our standard approach. For this, we provide large loans, over 10 million loans, over 10 million euros to large companies. Example here could be 83 million loan to MHP, leading poultry producer in the country, to finance working capital of their sunflower oil production segment. The second one is risk-sharing facilities with our local partner banks, where actually EBRD and the partner bank approve each individual clients, and the EBRD covers up to 60% of partner bank risks. The example here is 60% guarantee we provided to a 100 million hryvnia loan extended to yeast producer in Zim to finance their working capital activities. And the third program actually aimed to support SMEs mainly through local commercial banks. It's also risk sharing, but on portfolio basis, where commercial bank fully underwrites loans, and actually they build their loan portfolios with the amount of up to 3 million euros, and the BRD covers 50% of this portfolio. Last year, our activity and our focus was mainly on providing emergency liquidity, but now it is shifting more to provide limited capex, actually we are ready to consider even extension capex and new projects going forward, subject to rationale and thorough risk assessment, obviously. We remain agile in 2023, responding to changing circumstances and making adjustments according to the needs on the ground, as we did last year. And we would be happy to support foreign and local investors. This slide shows how actually we do it. We do not have standard programs as such. All our projects are tailor-made, depending on company needs. We can invest both in debt or equity or all instruments in between. We can finance greenfield projects and M&A transactions. Our specific feature that we can help mobilize other financing from private sector or institutional investors. And with help of donor support, we can provide non-financial support, for example, for project implementation, for various training, opportunities for sustainability audits, etc. So we stand ready and happy to provide our support going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lesia. I think that it's really very important message that EBRD continues to finance agri-processing. It just confirms that you see lots of opportunities in this sector. Thank you so much for this. And let's proceed. And I invite Oliver Girlix from Bayer, Managing Director of Bayer, just to share practical aspects of how Bayer manages to sustain operations and to be successful in the current new normality. Oliver.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity here to speak. It was very insightful what we have heard before. Is my sound okay? Yeah, it sounds very strange here. Okay. So I will add the view of a company that is actually investing right now in Ukraine as we speak. And for that, I have also prepared a little presentation that I will show now. Here we go. So let me start by telling you what Bayer is, because maybe not everybody is aware of that. So on a global level, we have 3 divisions. We are in pharmaceutical drugs, which is the prescription part, and consumer health, which is the non-prescription drugs, and another sector, which is crop science. We are a global company with 50 billion of sales. We have 100,000 employees, and we are very much science-driven, and that is underlined by a global budget of R&D of 6.6 billion euro last year. Now, what does it mean for Ukraine? In Ukraine, we are present since 1992, also with all 3 divisions, crop science being by far the biggest one. We are in all regions. We have 700 employees and roughly 250 seasonal workers right now. We have a seeds production plant, corn seeds production plant in Zhytomyr, roughly an hour and a half southwest of Kiev. That plant has been operating since 2018, had an initial investment of roughly 200 million euro. And now we are just about to invest another 60 million in these days. Yeah, so when the war broke out, we were thinking like, how can we support Ukraine? And for us, it's investment. And that is the first one I will talk about, because that's why we are here. But for us, it was also, and I want to mention that, I will very briefly come at the end of it to that. It's also to support Ukraine, because being in the agro business and being in the health sector, these are 2 central parts that Ukraine needs to overcome this war. So that is a big portion of our activity also right now. And the third one is, of course, our own people. It's not only their safety and security, but also how we can support them. So let's get into our investment. As I mentioned, it's a state-of-the-art facility. It's a corn seed plant. Not sure if everybody fully knows what that is. Seeds production is not for everybody's thing. We are not using GMO, so it's really the conventional crossing of existing products, of existing maize, and then coming up with a very high-performance corn that we are multiplying and that we are then selling. So again, this is this plant that we have in Zhytomyr. It's about a 60 million investment that we are doing now. What are we doing? We are investing in a third dryer that we need. So corn needs to be dried when it comes from the field in order to be processed, and that's what we are doing. With that, we need energy. That is a cob burner. So it's very sustainable energy. We are not burning gas. We are using the cobs of this corn that we are then burning. Because we are expanding our activities, we also need a new field equipment. We need storage facilities. We are investing in 2 bomb shelters on the plant because we have provisionary ones now, and also new lines to receive the corn. We will add with that roughly 40 seasonal jobs, so it's not so much in additional jobs we are creating with this expansion. So therefore, we are not qualifying for what Sergei has mentioned before, for the investment nannies and the support. But that has not been our aim anyway. For us, it was basically to say this investment makes a lot of sense because also Sergei pointed out there are lots of opportunities, and this is not something that we just had in mind now during the war. We saw that already before. That's why we invested in this very modern and one of the biggest seeds plant for Bayer in Europe in general, in Ukraine. So we have just seen the opportunities. In the past, we have mainly sold our product in Ukraine, actually 100%, until end of 2021. There was a harmonization between European Union and Ukraine for exporting seeds products. And that is when we started to invest. We started to export smaller quantities to try it out. It works very well. And now we are investing in that plant to increase our exports to the EU. That is the main purpose of what we are doing. Of course, we will also have to see how after the war, the development of corn production in Ukraine develops. For the time being, it's unfortunately negative because we have lost arable land. But we hope that in the future, this trend will again have a turnaround. So that plant is destined to further supply for Ukraine, but also in an increasing form for export into the European Union. What's maybe interesting for you is a couple of numbers, which is quite impressive. When we are selling a bag of corn seeds, that is typically around 24 kilos. And these 24 kilos usually are sufficient for 1 hectare. On this 1 hectare with 24 kilo, a farmer can produce 12 to 15 tons of corn. Just to give you a relation of how big that is what we are doing and what Ukraine is capable. And again, I'm referring to everything that Sergei has mentioned before. There's a lot of opportunities that is still to explore in the benefit of Ukrainian farmers and employment. The opportunities are also not only for the corn production, but it has also to do with employment. Right now, our plant is employing roughly 5,000 indirect people, so not our employees, but 5,000 people who are working in order to produce this corn. This investment will add another 20 to 30%, not on our payroll, but with our partners that we use to grow the corn. The investment also makes a lot of sense for the community where we are. Roughly 25% of our budget is coming from our plant only. So we are paying taxes in Zhytomyr, in Putriki, to be precise. Yeah, and I repeat myself, we see major opportunities not only in Ukraine, but also for export.
Oliver, as from what I understand, it's really you made investment, or you're making investments, which is really very opportune and timely during the current period of time. And I think that Ukraine really very thankful and grateful to you for this kind of decision. And from what I understood, this decision was relatively easy for you to take because you wanted to support Ukraine. It was actually a long time ago already well thought. And basically now you decided to support additionally the country and plus to support your operations. At the same time, could you please also speculate on somehow pick up the main challenges currently, what you observe? Because obviously there are lots of opportunities as soon as the war is going to be over. But for those ones who are now thinking whether to invest or not, and since we don't know how much time the war is going to be continued, can you please outline now what are the main concerns you are going through at the current stage?
Yeah. So thank you very much for pointing out, yes, it is a decision that we have taken during the war, not before. So we have, of course, had expansion in general in mind. And we decided on that when it made business-wise sense for us and it fits to the war situation. So the war was not a reason not to do it for us. But the decision has been established and realized now during the war. So what are our topics? Of course, a lot of the product that we need, this dryer, that is a very, very specialized company that's not produced in Ukraine today. So this is something that needs to be imported. And of course, yeah, we to be very honest, we have to find ways and possibilities to pay for that. Usually, you have to pay with when you pay with foreign currency outside of Ukraine, you have to import the products within 60 days. That machine is not built in 60 days, and they cannot pre-finance it because it's a quite small company. So we had quite some workarounds to get that done with our headquarters to give guarantees or to pre-finance certain things. So yeah, this is one of the topics. Of course, we are aware that this is not a zero risk situation. Of course, we know that we have attacks in Ukraine still today and ongoing, unfortunately. So there's also risk to the production as such. That's why we are looking also for some investment guarantees that different institutions, including the German government, are providing. But for us, again, the decision to do it was a pure business decision, and it also makes sense for us. Without these incentives, of course, we would also take them if they are possible, but this was also done without. Difficulties are rather to make sure that we can operate in normal hours. During the war, for example, we had reduced working hours because the front line was not so far away, unfortunately, from our plant. And it's a question how we can import the products, how the new equipment, how we can pay for it in foreign currency. So these are our challenges right now.
And you're not losing money, right? So you are cash positive at the current stage. So this is a very good message also to those ones who are outside of Ukraine and also speculate whether it's lucrative or not to have investments currently in the country. So you are cash positive.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just do you like to finalize, right?
Yeah. I would just like very, very quickly, as I mentioned before, Bayer has done quite a lot. So we have supported the Red Cross. We have our employee donation campaign with more than 1 million euro was the most successful that we ever had at Bayer on a global level. We have given out healthcare products, antibiotics, oncology products, contrast media, painkillers. We have donated seeds for more than 2,500 farmers in Ukraine for corn and also vegetable seeds. We have given shelter to refugees in some of our training centers in Germany to Ukrainian, particularly women with children and elderly people. And the third thing is, we have supported our employees. We are expanding, especially in the very first time when nobody knew where it was going. We did not dismiss anybody. We did not dismiss any person today, and we are not planning to do so. We have increased the salaries. We supported our people abroad, also in Ukraine, non-financial support with psychological support and others. So just to tell you, for us, it's a total that we can do. The investment helps Ukraine and it helps us. I mean, it's a commercial decision. Let's be fair. We are a commercial company. But for us, it's not only to see what we can take from it, but also what we can give there. And we are substantially supporting Ukraine to come through that period, and also our employees in the same way, because it's finally the employees who have this resilience. And I think the attitude of the company helps a lot, that our people have this positive mindset and keep going despite all this difficult situation that we see here. So just a snapshot here. Here's the seeds delivery to farmers, 6 ambulances that we bought for Ukraine, new ones. We are rebuilding the oncology clinic in Chernihiv. I was there just a month ago. We are supporting kids with traumata. So, and here our support for people, but then for our people, psychological support, health insurance, financial support, evacuation, accommodation in Ukraine and abroad. So that's us. So thank you very much for your attention, and thank you again for having had this spot here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oliver. I think that it's a very good story for others to consider, and it's very good that you actually raise the bar very high, and actually the rest of the industry just have to live up with this. So let's proceed. I now invite Alexey Sipko, co-owner of AGRI-Fusion group of companies. And obviously AGRI-Fusion is the company which is the example of resilience, right? And Alexey, can you please share what are the practicalities of your current situation, and whether you would like to continue investing in Ukraine, in agro-processing?
I'll do my best. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you see?
So yes, it looks like so. So far no slides yet, but hope that they will appear. Nothing on the slide.
I see that it is loading right now.
Yes. Probably you can start speaking, right? And then as soon as a presentation will be uploaded, you will just catch up.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alexey Sipko. I'm co-owner and marketing and sales director of AGRI-Fusion group of companies. I believe you already see my screen with a map of Ukraine, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So we are a small family-owned company situated on the very south of Ukraine in Nikolaevsk and Khersonsk region. And the motto of our company, we grow tomato paste. I will explain what is AGRI-Fusion before the war, what happened, and how we are developing exactly as you asked. So before the war, we had the vertically integrated business comprises with greenhouses for growing small tomato transplants. The capacity was almost 200 million transplants per season. We've been cultivating 34 hectares of irrigated fields here in the south of Ukraine. We were growing 8,000 hectares of tomatoes a season, and we had 3 factories. Northern factory situated near Nikolaev, built in 2009. Southern factory situated in the city Golaya Pristan near Kherson, built in 2007. Eastern factory built in 2019. And it is situated in the city of Snegorivka. And in 2021, we've built a tomato powder factory. The total processing capacity of AGRI-Fusion was 775,000 metric tons of fresh tomatoes per season. Talking about added value, when we process tomatoes, from 7 metric tons of tomatoes, we produce 1 metric ton of tomato paste. And when we produce tomato powder, we use 21 metric ton of or kilos of tomatoes to produce 1 ton of tomato powder. Just before the war, we were #1 in Ukraine and #3 in Europe in terms of processing. The day before the Russian aggression in 2022 started, we were building the factory. We called it Western Factory, with a projected capacity of extra 250,000 metric tons of tomatoes. And this is the picture of the construction site made on 23rd of February 2022. And this is, the factory was situated near the city Chaplinka. It's 5 kilometers from Crimea. Before the war started, actually for us, the war started in 2014 when Russia occupied Crimea, because that time we were selling 65% of our product to Russian market. And we decided that we shouldn't do it anymore. We looked very carefully at the globe, find out that there are some more countries except Russia, and we've started developing export market for Ukrainian tomato paste. So by 2021, we've been actively exporting to 53 countries.
Was it difficult, Alexei? Was it difficult to find customers in new markets? And how long did it take actually to look for new customers?
It doesn't take too long when you accept their rules. One of the important things from the very foundation of AGRI-Fusion was following the strictest safety and quality rules available in the world. So since 2029, we were certified against all the most, let's say, demanding quality and traceability standards which were in the food industry. And we were, well, it was challenging, but not that dramatic as now. Yes, but we were not the invaders of tomato paste. We were just the company who decided that it's very good product to produce, very healthy food to be produced in Ukraine, and there is a demand for this product all over the world. So the most exotic, let's say, countries for us was Costa Rica. The most demanding was Japan. And for year 2023, we were expecting that we will export to 14 more countries. In terms of our sales by categories, if we take 100% of our tomatoes, 9% of them were sold to juice producers. We are not producing final product. We are industrial product producer or B2B. So we were growing the specific variety of tomatoes to make the specific paste for specific juice producers. 9% were sold to paste manufacturers. 75% were sold to ketchup and sauce manufacturers, and 6% of our processing were sold in form of tomato powder. Just some of our customers and their brands here on the slide. Important thing in terms of doing business in Ukraine that we've been always paying taxes, and we believe that it's one of our missions in terms to the country. So the red line shows the amount of taxes paid in million hryvnias since 2018, and the budget for 2022 was to pay 388 million hryvnias. VAT is deducted. And the taxes per one employee, the budgeted figure was 230,000 per employee. Unfortunately, because of Russians, we see that we managed to pay only 91 million Ukrainian hryvnias of taxes in 2022, but the amount of taxes paid by each of our employees even a bit increased.
But you pay this, of course, the tax amount reduced substantially, but nevertheless, when it comes to your operations, are you loss making or cash positive in the current situation?
We even invest.
Ah, so that's good. So you managed to do that. Excellent.
Okay, I will then proceed with the war and how it affected us. There would be some dramatic pictures. Sorry for that. So the first what we saw that there were some Russian innovations with Ukrainian irrigation system. Some of the tank stuck in our irrigation channel. Some of channels have been heavily damaged. And this is one of the challenges that tomatoes do not grow without irrigation. So we need to renovate a significant amount of irrigation channels here on the south of Ukraine. Another thing, the implication that a significant amount of our agricultural machineries have been damaged during the combat, after the shelling, or it was disassembled by the Russians and some spare parts were just stolen from the machine. Another thing that after armed forces of Ukraine liberated some of our fields, there are significant amount of residuals, artillery, ammunitions, and mines, and we are in urgent need of demining of our fields here on the south of Ukraine. And Mykolaiv region is the most mined area in the world, I believe.
But have you started already to demine your lands, and how much investments does it need in order to clean the land completely?
We've started. We've made the technical review of the field. We've started the demining. Right now, the country helps and demines some of our fields. From 19,000 hectares of land in our operation in Mykolaiv region, 2,000 of them are suitable for growing in now. The rest is still under inspection and have to be cleaned and demined.
So it means that polluted land, that polluted piece of land cannot be actually grown. So you cannot you do not plant there, and you cannot take harvest, right?
We even are not allowed to enter there because when you see something, it's okay, but there are some mines which you do not see.
Okay, yeah.
So it's one of the biggest challenges for us now. Okay, coming to the factories. The northern factory here near Mykolaiv, since the beginning of aggression in 2022, the factory was shelled 16 times. It was repaired 16 times, and we managed to process some tomatoes on this factory in August 2000 and September 2022, when factory was considered to be in gray zone. Pictures on the left is exactly how it looked a season ago, and pictures on the right shows the factory state after the Russian shelling. Also, our greenhouse been damaged, and significant amount of tomato paste have been destroyed by our attackers. Eastern factory, the factory in Snigurivka, again, pictures on the left is how it looked, and pictures on the right is the second day after the liberation of Snigurivka in November 2022. A lot of equipment stolen, damaged. I'm not talking about urinals, but they gone also. A lot of paste, actually most of it destroyed. And that's what we've got in November. So the total estimation of our losses for the group of companies, 8 billion hryvnias. It comprises of tomato paste and cereals and peas and soybeans, which were just directly destroyed. It's about 3 billion hryvnias. Factories and equipment damaged, and one of our factories is still on occupied territory. It's 3.4 billion hryvnias. Almost 1 billion is agricultural machinery, vehicles, and so on. And the crops on the fields, we evaluate the cost of them at 500 million hryvnias, which were also burned and destroyed.
I'm sorry, Alexei, we need to somehow to complete, but just the question, do you plan to compensate those losses? Do you plan to return them at a certain point, or just you write them off and that's it?
We expect that Russians will pay this everything.
Repatriation, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe to my grandchildren, but after all these dramatic things, we've made the recovery plan. It's 32 pages of text, how to recover AGRI-Fusion after the war, and we already started to implement this plan. All data is at Ukrainian Invest and at EBA website. I'll just show 2 pictures of this plan and how it will look like. So our program is to renovate both factories which are under our control in 2023 and start processing tomatoes there and process 500,000 metric tons of fresh tomatoes this year. We plan that our army will liberate Kherson this year or early next year, and we will have access to our 1,000 factory, and we will process and grow tomatoes there as well. And we want to build the 4th factory in 2026 and process 1 million tons of fresh tomatoes. Mm-hmm. In terms of money, we've just showing the capex. In total, the project needs 67 million euros of money. To renovate Northern Factory, we need 2.8 million euros. For Eastern Factory, we need 11 million euros. And to renovate Tomato Powder Factory, we need 5.3 million euros. It's our estimate. Commissioning isn't finished yet. For Southern Factory, we don't know what would be the damage, so we just consider it will be okay. And for the new project, we'll need 50 million euros. The effect for the country, if we are successful, we will generate 900 working places in 2023 and will pay 385 million hryvnias of taxes. And by 2027, we will pay 727 million hryvnias of taxes, and we will have 2,236 employees working in the company.
That's very good, Alexei. I suggest that on this very positive note, I see the slide. Thank you very much. And I would like also to thank you very much. And I would like to wish that your recovery plan becomes a success and becomes a reality. And indeed, actually, that Kherson and all other occupied regions are being liberated by our Ukrainian army. Thank you so much. And let's proceed further. Boris Shestopalov, entrepreneur, co-owner of HD Group and GPS Group. Boris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Anna. I understand about you worry about time. I try to very shortly, a little bit explain and make it shortly my big presentations. A lot of previous speakers today spoke about the problem which has affected the agriculture sector, about the losses, about some damages, about destroyed logistics corridor. The same problem also affected agri-food processing. But at the same time, when the various sectors of the national economics demonstrated a different level of losses with negative champion sectors like metal steels, chemicals, and others. But at the same time, food agri-processing, food sectors demonstrates the least negative impact of the from military operations, and even after the one and some months of start Russian invasions, food sectors unknowns around 75% of company from agri-food sectors, agri-food processing sectors, food producers, unknowns growing his capacity or the same level like before the war, around 25% unknowns numbers increase the level before the start of invasion. I don't want to scare our guest picture about our destroying factory in our and different regions, because I little bit want to talk about future and about our solutions for the idea. When the start Russian invasions, we, even our company, start to think about remove some factory from the east of the country. And when we start to look in some place for our factory, we not found any place, especially for the agri company, for the agri-food processing company with all our specific needs. In this case, me and our team start to develop a project. It's with some chain or network, different industrial parks with agri-food tech specializations or agri-food specializations for the agri-food processing. Everybody talked today about challenge what we touched today. I don't want to repeat. We just talk about, we start to talk about investment to the local food processing. It can help to mitigate these losses and provide global food security. About food security a little bit. For example, about our company. Of course, we lost, first of all, during the Russian invasion, we lost 5 our factory from 15. And I think total loss our company, it's now around 1 billion hryvnia. But at the same time, we start to produce product not just for the local market. We have very good experience to cooperate with different United Nations programs, and even is this time we deliver some products to not just to the local customer and for the national customers in through the United Nations food security program. Okay, about our project. Our project, like first our project, it's like our MVP project. It's a Vinnytsia integrated agri-food tech park. Now we decide start our develop our chain in industrial parks in Vinnytsia. A lot of why. It's a good locations, good investment climate, good land, and high level of preparations for the start constructions. We finished to preparing all papers, all the legal, and we announce we registration Spark managed company, and we start to collect different residents from Ukraine and not for Ukraine, because our idea create full ecosystems. Like I said before, we need to integrated agri-food park. It's our future prototype for the typical agri-food industrial parks. We call Volia food ecosystems. Our idea, heart of our industrial parks, it's a business incubator for the exactly new Ukrainian clusters, food tech. Our idea, it's a full chain of develop the products. Business incubator, when we make some special conditions for them developed, first of all, Ukrainian idea and Ukrainian team. Experimental productions, for this case, we especially building, we built specially for this case light industry box, when the team, food tech team, have all possibility to start to make his products very fast. And of course, main idea, it's a series productions in our park.
But why normally? Why people need to go to your
future
park?
Business incubator called Volume.
Boris, why do you think people need to go to your park? What attracts them?
First, it's not obligations. First of all, it's just.
But you like them to come anyhow, so that's why I'm asking.
Of course, it's very easy. It's very easy. Most of the industrial parks in what is developed now in Ukraine, it's a very good project. But generally, most of the parks, it's this real estate project. It means it's locations for the different type of sectors, for the different factory. What's it try to fix his equipment and develop his productions. But our idea, it's a very hard frame for just agriculture processing. In our future park, it's possible to move in our park just if you even if you're not agri-food producer, you must to give some new advantages to your neighbors in these parks. We try to make a chain. For example, we invite to our park two packages producers. One, it's a packages producers, other it's machine packages. We want
so basically
to make...
they should come because of their friendship in the industry to a certain extent. I understand the benefits, but when it comes to presenting of your idea on the global markets, you just arrived from Lugana, right? And there was a forum there. Have you already attracted some sort of participants into your park, or have you gained also interest from investors to invest into the park?
Depends of country when the born of our potential clients or residents or participants. We talked today. Sergey Tsipkach talked today around cost of all utilities in Ukraine. Even now and for long time for future, we have very good utilities cost, and we have smart and knowledges populations for organized processing. We have big advantages when we calculate, when we check two calculations for ready products in our country on outside. We have good advantages for the start. Start from the cost of the land. We start from the cost of industrial lands and all other price for facilities, for buildings, for everything. The same times, don't forget about good legal and tax advantages what we have now through the Ukrainian new law, what we announced during the last year. Good situations with no zero tax for the equipment. Most of the equipment, when we move equipment through the border, needs to pay tax, VAT. It's a good advantages when we talk about cash flow. Zero tax for the profit, and government announced some support, real support with money for the infrastructure buildings. But of course, it's a start, I think, after they finish the wartime, not now. But now, even after the Lugana, I heard a lot of interest from investors, one side, other side from food producers from Central and East Europe, who is want to increase his capacity and develop his business. But now in the Europe, it's too expensive, it's too long. I think in industrial park, not just in our industrial park, but in another industrial park, we have a very good perspective to the develop business very fast, or more faster. Yes.
Boris, I think that we need to complete, I think that somehow, because we have two more speakers, one Evgen and another Taras, and plus Q&A. So maybe one final minute, and then we'll proceed to Evgen.
Okay, Anna. Okay. Cool. Okay. All our presentations, we of course. It's a status our parks now. It's start to everything with the pipe, with the tube, with the road, preparing the land, and of course we have a lot of advantages about renewable energy and other and so on. We all our presentations has Ukrinvest, and if somebody has questions or interest, we directly send our presentation. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Boris. Let's proceed. Evgen Sadovy, Director of Agricultural Processing of Astarta. Evgen, please, the floor is yours. If you can wrap up a little bit and be shorter in order to allow more time also for Taras as well and to Q&A, it would be really excellent. Evgen?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Anna. I have 2-hour presentations, but I'll try to fit it in 5 minutes and do slides. So no worries. Just 1 second. I think the presentation is running, but
they upload.
I would like to start with the point that Astarta is a vertical integrated company, and key point about us that we do processing raw materials we produce. Such way we produce soybeans and produce soy meal and oil. We produce sugar from sugar beets we grow, and also we process milk. I'm not sure if you see my presentation because I cannot see.
No, it is not seeable, but nevertheless, I suggest that you go ahead and then it will just catch up with you.
Okay. So we in Astarta, we operate 7 silos with a total capacity of close to 560,000 tons. We run 5 sugar plants and produce, if you take average per last years, anywhere between 250 and 500,000 tons of sugar. And we are one of the biggest producer of sugar in the country. Also, our biocomplex is a successful project, especially this year, with 60 million cubic meters of gas. We have our crush plant capacity, 250,000 tons per year. And saying all that, we see a lot of potential in processing agricultural commodities, and that's potential development of our company. Before the war, we introduced a project called SPC, and with a total investment of $50 million, I'm sorry. And this project hasn't been started due to the war restriction. And secondly, because we haven't been able to get equipment delivered and foreign engineers. We have all the permits in place and we have everything arranged, but basically at this point, we are considering to proceed with this project. SPC is a new product which is not produced in Ukraine, and it's going to be delivered to foreign markets. And the key point about it is that it's replaces part of the naturally grown fishes. So basically that's part of the ECG process. And part of the products we are using is basically can be used on our bioenergetical plant. So that's kind of a key. So with pointing my fingers, I think I was able to explain everything. I don't know if you see the presentation now.
Now, yes, we see the presentation.
I'll
but
just,
obviously, everybody knows.
Point on our last slide.
Yeah. What Astarta is because Astarta is really very well-known company and obviously also very resilient. But the last slide you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I just want to stress that this product we are going to produce. That's a unique product for Ukraine. That's very much demanded by European customers, and it's much better. And it's also part of their products we produce can be used for our biogas facility. That's really about it.
Thank you. And as far as I understand, the company never stopped actually since the war started, right? Because when we were talking
with
Sergey, actually the owner of started, he was really presenting the picture that the company was fully operational without any interventions and interruptions because of the war. And one of the main challenges, at least at certain period of time, was actually pollution of lands, right? Or this issue have been cleared already?
Well, basically not so much as other companies, I would say. But yes, Anna, you are correct. We haven't been stopped for a single day. We have been running all the time. And luckily for us, we haven't been too much affected by the war. So all of our plants are staying safe and operational.
And plus, from what I understand, you're also cash positive. So it means that it's possible to be a revenue generating machine even during the wartime. So no problems with this. So it means that in case the war is over, basically you can triple, you can really substantially increase your volumes and also revenues, right?
Yeah, Anna, our basically products are diverse and our activities diverse. So we've been able to meet all of the challenges of the war. And I just want to allow myself to correct you, not if, but when the war will be completed. Of course, we will double, triple, and we will run full blast.
Excellent. And do you have some estimations on when the war is going to finish?
Well, whatever I would say, it will be a speculation, but I hope it's going to be the soonest.
I see. Great. Let me wish everyone this, actually, the soonest victory of Ukraine. Great, thank you so much, Evgeny.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for respecting the time limits. And now let's proceed to Taras. Taras Vysotsky, First Deputy Minister of Agrarian Policy. Maybe please, Taras, tell a few words, and afterwards, in case we have time for Q&A, and I hope we will have it, we will just read questions and then have some answers.
Thank you for the possibility to have some remarks. First of all, we do agree with the areas described by the previous speakers and possibilities for investments. What I would like to add that all of this development of agriculture and agri-processing, it also can create opportunities within the supply chain. We already had the case of seeds presented by Bayer, but we also can move in development in another inputs like pesticides, agricultural machinery, and mineral fertilizers, for what all the companies are welcomed. Also, we have to remember that to carry out all of these produced, not only agricultural commodities, but processed commodities, we need logistics. And before there was a law on river logistics was voted, and we are sure that after our victory is going to be developed. So there'll be one also area of investment related with agriculture, which is river logistics. Also, we will need an increase in other types of logistics, in railways, ports, and trucks. So the whole supply chain is even wider than the one described today, but we agree that the current issues are relevant. And once again, I would also influence that we as a ministry also support the bioenergy production, first of all, from residuals. So Lena mentioned to make it already sustainable, green, and we have to remember that other countries are ready to pay some premium for biomethane, for example, produced first of all of residuals. So we welcome all the companies to keep developing and are ready to support as much as possible. Thank you.
Tarase, with regards to current logistics, obviously this is one of the main concerns and main obstacles in order to export from Ukraine ready-made products. Can you please estimate how quickly this issue can be resolved? Because currently we have lots of, we collect lots of concerns from our member companies that situation is getting more dramatic and more difficult. What ministry is doing in order to soften it down, in order to have really smooth transportation through the border?
The situation is, first of all, the most challenging in the Polish border. We're thankful other countries like Slovak, Hungary, Romania are moving with this moving quite good comparatively. Of course, with this situation, the Polish border, there are going to be another round of high-level talks in the next days. Also, we have to remember that it's important to finalize until the prolongation of free trade agreement with European Union, which is starting from the 5th of June. That's why next few days, namely next week, there'll be such talks in Brussels related with this prolongation and also free access of commodities. Of course, it's lots of losses have been already in place. We do understand, but I can't announce all the decisions or preliminary decisions which are going to be announced by the government in respect with our colleagues. But hopefully this plan is going to work latest next week.
Let's hope for this. Look, I will read for you first two questions. Can you please also answer them? Чому знижені пріоритети до аквакультури? На нулі розвиток штучного вирощування гідробіонтів на морському узбережжі, не кажучи про повний комплекс переробки риби та рибопродукції. This is the first on aquacultures and fish, and the second, чи є фінансові програми підтримки переробної галузі. І мені здається, що про це говорили, але тим не менше можете просто коротко окреслити.
Може відповім українською, бо задавали українською, щоб було чітко. Аквакультура. Насправді, наше міністерство ініціювало і уряд підтримав в кінці минулого року якраз можливість вперше запроваджувати приватні проекти по вирощуванню аквакультури в акваторії моря. Єдине, що стримує від їх реалізації, на жаль, це військові дії. Наразі з військових причин це не дозволено. Але механізм є. Ми наголошуємо, щоб звернули увагу, це було наприкінці минулого року рішення уряду. Вже можна готувати проекти із перспективою наших майбутніх швидких військових успіхів можна було запроваджувати. Тому ми закликаємо вивчити це питання і готуватися мінімум. Точно готові, щоб це якнайшвидше запрацювало. По підтримках переробки є гранти на переробки, вони, звісно, не такі великі в сумах, це до 8 мільйонів гривень, але вони є. Через портал Дія можна подавати заявки, все онлайн і потім їх отримувати. Багато отримало минулого року, багато заявок вже підтверджено цього року. Це так більш для малого та мікро- і малого бізнесу, ближче до середнього, але в межах існуючих ресурсів це пряма підтримка тільки така. Ну і звісно, те, що є в інвестиційних проєктах, індустріальних парках, непряма підтримка по податках, інфраструктурі, це діє в тому числі до переробки.
Чи знаєте, як працює програма ООН «Хабітат» в Україні?
Ми знову співпрацюємо. Повноцінно запровадити зараз в рамках, у нас є таке бачення продовольчої безпеки, цю програму не вдається тимчасово, але там анонсовано потенційно, він збирає декілька мільярдів доларів для цього, в тому числі для підтримки споживачів, в тому числі для межової бідності. Тому надіємося, що також це все можна буде імплементувати в другому половині цього року.
Дякую. Comment to EBRD. First Ukrainian International Bank would like to join the EBRD risks sharing GTFP program as a local bank. I suggest that Lesia, maybe you can actually get in touch with First Ukrainian International Bank, Galina Titarenko. She is in the chat just to connect to discuss opportunities of cooperation.
Welcome to talk.
Excellent, thank you so much. And then question to Євген Садовий. Доброго дня, пане. Питання до Євгена. Яким способом отримуєте концентрат соєвого білка? Євген.
Анна, да. Я тут.
Євген, да. Як ви отримуєте концентрат?
Я хотів сказати, що в процесі ми виробляємо соєвий шрот, і потім за допомогою додаткової доробки соєвого шроту ми отримуємо концентрат соєвого білка. Це такий досить складний процес. Якщо в виробництві соєвого шроту задіяний один екстрактор, то просто для розуміння, цей самий процес для виробництва з уже виробленого соєвого шроту соєвого білка потребує встановлення додаткових 3 екстракторів. Дякую.
Чудово. Дякую. Так, question on Argentina. From Argentina, what is your expectation about sunflower production in the campaign 2023-2024? Thanks a lot. I don't know to whom this question is, but nevertheless, who would like to answer? What is expectation about sunflower?
Sunflower is going to be produced, I can ask. So our forecast is that the areas on the sunflower seeds is going to increase this year. And the overall production can be plus 10-15% comparing with the 2022, because it's one of the in the current situations among the profitable crops.
Super.
Yeah.
If
I may ask,
yes.
maybe I think it's roughly 5 million hectares that we expect, which is a bit more than last year, but also a little bit less than 21.
Thank you. Next question. Чи є ризики привезення нових транспортних засобів для потреб розвитку сільськогосподарського виробництва, що їх мобілізують під потреби ЗСУ? Це більше до Тарасу, мені здається, питання. Тарас Висоцький.
Так, можна, будь ласка, ще раз?
Чи є ризики привезення машин для сільськогосподарського виробництва, бо побоююся ризик, що їх заберуть до потреб ЗСУ?
Ну, дивіться, тут насправді там з точки зору, розумію, питання, бо цих мобілізаційних завдань по техніці там все рівно є максимальна межа, і в більшості підприємств вона вже досягнута, і цю швидку мобілізацію по техніці вже була проведена, тому по нових цей ризик мінімальний, але як мінімум, щоб бути геть впевненим, треба ще раз підприємству дійсно порахувати по нормативах в частині цього. Тут, якщо необхідно, можуть звернутися до нас, ми можемо допомогти з регулюванням, з точки зору прорахунку, суто конкретні кейси.
Супер. Так, яка державна підтримка, чи є державна підтримка, яка вона щодо зрошення?
По зрошенню є програма в закладеному бюджеті навіть цього року, незважаючи на складності 200 мільйонів гривень. Це є порядок рішення уряду, це компенсація вартості відновлення або будівництва зрошення безпосередньо польового, тобто на полях. Єдине, що основний фокус це для організації водокористувачів, тому ми заохочуємо фермерів об'єднуватись в організації водокористувачів і, відповідно, отримувати цю компенсацію. Є порядок, це там до 50% можна отримати, залежно від виду техніки, десь 25, десь 50% компенсації за відновлення зрошення на полях.
Дякую. So, state support for dairy farmers to buy machines for feeding cows and mature utilization on fields. Я так розумію, що це питання, as far as I understand, this is the question from Arno.
So far, there is no financing for such programs. Indeed, the programs were in place before the war. We hope they are going to return as soon as possible, at least after the victory. But unfortunately, during the current year, there are no money for such programs in the budget.
I see. This is more actually the answer to Janusz. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just looking at the timing, and I know that Sergey actually asked me to to finish at 6 sharp. So that's why I would like to thank everyone for your insightful and very nice actually contributions to broader understand what's going on in agri-processing sector. I found it personally very interesting and really encouraging to see that actually even currently businesses operate, they invest, they are cash positive, and they continue to do business in Ukraine. So here I would like to support Sergey's attempts and aspirations to bring new clients, new partners and players to the market, and we will be more than happy to serve you in Ukraine and to develop your businesses both in Ukraine and on the global market. Thank you so much. And basically, Sergey, if you like, just concluding remarks, or we just finish and that's it.
I just want to say thank you for your excellent moderation. I would like to thank all speakers for presenting the projects. This is very important because we present real Ukraine. We present strong, medium-sized businesses, and these businesses, they're actually the backbone of Ukrainian economy, as every economy, but also will be the backbone of economic transformation of Ukraine. So it's very important to see the businesses. And once again, Ukraine Invest is open as European Business Association, as our financial partners. Thank you to EBRD, thank you to IFC, and thank you to the Ministry of Agriculture of Ukraine. For Taras and Mykola, thank you for the job you do. So we all open as Business and State of Ukraine for any inquiries. Please send us an email. We'll be happy to talk to you and facilitate your investment in Ukraine. Thank you. And support Ukrainian businesses as well.
Absolutely.
When they seek investment and when they seek connection to international business community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Until new meetings. Thank you. Have a very safe and nice day. All the best.
Thank you.
Bye.